Today was a regular day for me. I went to work, did everything as normal, and then came back. However, when I came back, I just felt a little tired today. So, I put on the TV, sat down on my sofa, and simply just enjoyed life. I mean, there wasn't really much else I could do anyway. However, as I took a small glance outside the window, I realized that there was something moving. To be more specific, it was moving around in circles, as if it was playing some kind of a game. I didn't want to go up to it for many reasons, but it was very fascinating how it kept moving and hardly ever paying any attention to me. At first I thought maybe it was some kind of prank, and I was very tempted to go outside and see why they were doing this. But something told me not to. Call it a gut feeling, perhaps, or maybe something else. As you can imagine, though, I wasn't really in the mood for any of this eventually, so I got up and said, you know what, I'm done with all this. Opened the door and proceeded to politely ask the person to leave. But as soon as I even said anything, the shadow was gone, and in its place was nothing. Just a blank patch of darkness, like how it would look when you just get up in the middle of the night to go grab a drink of water, only to realize that when the room lights up, there's still some dark patches. Anyway, I then decided that I'd leave, considering the fact that obviously there's nothing there anymore. And what was I really going to do? Stand around waiting? After leaving my backyard and then just about to go back into the door to where my kitchen was to go to the living room, I realized that there was something weird about all of this. Like something was kind of watching me in the distance. So I turned my head backwards, but there was nothing there. I just couldn't shake that presence though, and that's what bugged me the most. After a couple minutes of blankly staring at the darkness, I then decided to leave and just go back to doing whatever I was doing. A couple of minutes or so pass, and there I am, just sitting, staring at the TV, maybe having a couple of laughs at some of the shows that are on, until eventually it's time for me to go to sleep. I made my way upstairs, and just as I was about to fall asleep, I simply looked out the window for a brief second. Realizing that I forgot to close the blinds, I went over there and was about to do that, when I saw the shadow right there again. To this day, I still question what I saw. Was it real? The scary thing is, I don't know. All I can really say for sure is that just pay attention to your surroundings. You never know what could happen. I'll start by saying I often like to go out at night. The reason why is because, well, the town looks so beautiful, that's number one, and the fact that, honestly, I don't think anyone doesn't like to have a night out where they just walk about and look at stuff. Now, that being said, if you're a lazy person, that's fine, I have no issue, but if you actually like venturing out in the middle of the night and looking at all those bright lights, then good on you. Now, that being said, this tale is more of a scary one to say the least. It all started one day as I was doing some late night shopping. Not probably the best idea considering it's night time, and shopping should be most likely done in the day just to get it over with, but as I said, it's a good excuse to go out and do whatever. So there I was, walking back with the bags in my hand, and that's when I got the phone call from, obviously, my wife. She told me that obviously that once we got the basic stuff we need, that obviously we're going to just have food straight away, which I was content with, but I was obviously going to have a bit more of a walk around. After a while of browsing through different shops, I then eventually, as you can imagine, got bored and began to head back home. At first, I didn't really think of taking my car, considering I was only going down to town where that would be, and it wasn't that far. However, I was beginning to get pretty tired, so, as you can imagine, I was originally going to call a taxi or anything of that sort, but conveniently enough, none of those services were available, so what I had to do was walk. I know, pretty tragic. Also, pretty weird considering I just said that I am not a lazy person, but you know how you can get lazy sometimes. And even then, I did say I wouldn't judge, but I guess that wouldn't help now, would it? Anyways, I then began to gradually walk, and albeit at a very slow pace, considering, as I said before, I was beginning to get pretty tired. And with the bags in my hand, that really wasn't helping me. So, there I was, just walking down a couple of the streets and admiring the lights, when a taxi, or at least it appeared to be one, came directly around the corner and parked on the side of the street. Now, I didn't think much of it, but I was originally going to ask if perhaps I could have a ride home. And that's what I did. I went up to ask the guy if, obviously, I could probably have a ride, but to my surprise, he just flat out ignored me, which, as you can imagine, just pissed me off even more, but I wasn't going to make a big fuss about it. So, I then decided that walking was the way to go. I started heading in the general direction of where my house was. Now, it wasn't that far away, only a couple more minutes of walking, and even then, it was good exercise. So, I began to walk in the general vicinity of where my house is, and then I found it. However, the weird thing is, a taxi was pulled up right next to it, which was very weird, but I just figured that maybe this was the last person getting dropped off. And what's strange is I saw the exact same taxi driver looking me dead in the eyes, which was unsettling by itself. All I did was go to my house and just simply leave. Now, I don't know if he was planning anything, but one thing remains clear. If he was planning anything, I sure as hell wasn't going to find out. As for the moral of this story, just keep an eye out for any suspicious behavior. I mean, you never know what they could be plotting, am I right? Today was an alright day for me. I just got back from the bar, and although I'm a little drunk, I swear, having a good drink every now and again is probably the best thing you can do. And, considering I just got a promotion at work, that probably means better to me. However, there's something weird that happened that night that I still can't quite get out of my head. Now, I was drunk, so bear in mind this could probably explain a lot of things, but I've never had a history with seeing things before, and even then, when I do get drunk, I mainly just fall asleep straight away. Which kinda says a lot about me already. But anyways, it was a normal day, and it was just after I got out of the bar. Now, obviously I couldn't drive, considering the fact that I was drunk, and that's a major road safety hazard. So, what I did was immediately call a taxi. I was picked up and dropped off straight away at my home, with no problems. Now, fumbling to get my keys out of my pocket was probably the worst thing I could do in this situation, considering it was cold, raining, and in general, I just wanted to get inside. So, after fumbling around for about a couple of minutes looking for the keys, I opened the door and was ready to either get straight into bed and have a lie down, or just probably spend the time doing something else. Now, I didn't have anything in mind, and I sure as hell wasn't going to go to sleep just yet, especially considering the fact that I had to celebrate now, considering I just got this newfound promotion. So, instead of getting some sleep, which probably would have been the most sensible idea, I busted out my N64 and played a couple of games on there for a while. After a while of playing games on my N64, I then decided that, you know what, I'm going to watch some TV now. So, I turned over to a couple of channels and flipped through a couple of them. Now, throughout this entire process of flicking through channels, I noticed that I could see faces popping in and out of the TV. Kind of like distortions, but I was drunk, so at first I just chalked it up to it being some random hallucinations, considering the fact that I'm already drunk. But after a while of this happening, it was hard to question it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still thought it could be because I was drunk, or maybe I was just seeing faces in the TV because of some typical other excuse, but obviously it was just hard to keep focused when I kept seeing them. So what I then did was probably the most sensible thing I had that entire day. I switched off the TV and got ready for bed. Now, as I was walking up to my bed, I noticed some things that were very strange straight away. When I left this morning, I know that my house was clean and nothing was out of place. But when I opened up the door to my bedroom, however, things were everywhere. Over the floor, the bedsheets were completely messed up, and even the window appeared to be wide open, as if someone jumped straight through it, which was concerning by its own right. Now, I wasn't going to think about this too much. All I did was go to sleep. I woke up the next morning feeling, well, probably the worst, and on top of all that, I was still recovering from a hangover. So, I drowsily put my arm on my desk, searching for anything like a phone, so that I could maybe say that I was ill today, or just something to, in general, get my boss off my back, when I felt a piece of paper on my desk. Now, naturally, as I was still recovering from the hangover, I couldn't really read as much. I was more focused on the headache in general. So I drowsily read the words that were, "I'm glad you didn't look under your bed." Now, this freaked me out enough to look under my bed, and what I found was a large kitchen knife directly underneath the bed. Now, I called the cops, and they didn't say much, but what I can say for sure is that if you did go out anywhere, just be sure to check around. You never know if there's anything out of place, and who knows, it could be urgent.